Welcome to Global Information Security Society for Professionals of Pakistan.
To join again?
Yes, I have joined, and I think we should now start. Let me just introduce that we have Athar Ahmed, who is the Chief Information Security Officer of Habib Metro Bank in Pakistan. He has previously been the CISO of Bank Al Habib as well as UBL, and he has around 2 decades experience working with Citibank in different countries. And besides him, we have Razi Farooqui, who is the General Manager of Information Security at KL.
Everyone.
He has also been worked previously with Habib Bank in Pakistan and also in Canada. He has, mashallah, his MS done from Oxford University, and he has been working with K Electric for more than 2 years, which means that he was there when there was ransomware incident.
That was a nice introduction.
some crowning achievement.
Yes, the point I made this, I mentioned this, that because of the reason that despite that incident, K Electric did very well and it came out of it very nicely, despite all the mayhem and the problems which were seen in the social media, especially social media. And then we have Dr. Nazeer Malik from Bahria University, Islamabad. Dr. Saab, if you can just raise your hand. Okay. Dr. Nazeer Malik is one of the individuals in the country who did his PhD in information security, one of the very first few PhDs in information security. And again, he did his PhD from Royal Holloway University in the UK, which is one of the well-acclaimed and very renowned information security institution of the world. He has some practical exposure as well, besides working with Bahria University as well. So the idea of this discussion is that we have these 4 panelists, and we might be able to take the questions towards the end of this panel discussion from the audience. But primarily the discussion will revolve around these 4 gentlemen who has joined us. And those who could not, who were not there when I introduced Dr. Asad. Dr. Asad is at Ahmed University in Karachi. He is leading the cybersecurity lab, which was given the funding by Higher Education Commission 3 years ago, and they have developed a solution. By the way, Dr. Nazir at Bahria University, Islamabad is also one of those 10 universities which got the funding from Higher Education Commission. And Bahria University, Islamabad also has developed an intrusion detection system. And I have seen that demo as well when I was there 6 months ago in Islamabad. And that's not just a software, they've got some hardware component as well. So before we actually start, if Dr. Nazeer and Dr. Asad just give some introduction in 2-3 minutes each of what they have been doing within the Cybersecurity Center of Excellences during the last 2 years, and what are their plans in the next 2 years.
I request Dr. Asad if you can start, please.
Thank you very much. My name is Dr. Asad Arfeen, and I and Dr. Nazir from Bahria University are part of the consortium of National Center for Cybersecurity. Actually, that was an initiative by Government of Pakistan under Pakistan Vision 2025, in which there have been several pillars about strengthening Pakistan's national economy and technological independence. So there were competition around by Higher Education Commission in terms of cybersecurity, robotics, artificial intelligence, and data science. So many of the universities in Pakistan, they participated. There was an public competition, and then in each domain, some of the universities got awarded. So NED, Bahria University, Air University, LUMS, and there are UET Peshawar. They are the part of the consortium in terms of cybersecurity, and alhamdulillah, we are trying our best to make cybersecurity solutions which are useful for local industry. It's not just about publishing papers, because when the grant was announced, the main theme was that it should have impact, not only impact factor, it should have impact. So we are trying, one of the major KPIs of our centers, my lab and Dr. Nazir lab, is to work towards products which are useful for local industry, because we all know, as you are all industry professionals, that our industry is spending millions and millions of dollars on security solutions they import, and in terms of support they pay too much. So we are trying our best that we develop solutions and which are credible, which have good support, and which have industry support with us, and then we try to help the industry. And we have now 2.5 years passed with these centers, and there's 1 year more, and we are trying our best to make these centers sustainable, and then we link with the industry.
Yes, Dr. Nazir Saab.
Thank you very much, Asif, for a very nice introduction. And as already explained by Dr. Asad, the National Center for Cybersecurity, it was established back in about 2019 by the previous government, and it was an initiative by the Ministry of Planning, Development and Reform, and the funding was given through the Higher Education Commission. And it was I think it was one of the first of a kind where the universities competed with each other very well. If I am correct, maybe Dr. Asad can correct me, that in the first phase, there were about 42 universities who pitched their ideas for the award or the funding. And it was the evaluation group, the committee which was evaluating the ideas. It was not only from the academics, it was part of the academics, part of the industry, part of the private sector. And it was a very, very well educated committee involving the members from the government, Ministry of Science and Technology. So that's how the first phase went on. And in the first phase, there were about 27 universities which were shortlisted. And in the second phase, again, those 27 universities competed with each other. And finally, the funding was given to the 10 centers. Bahria University is one of the university which got the funding from the HAC, spanning over 3 years period. Though the major funding part is for the development of the HR, which is most focused area, because even today's session is about the gap analysis. And one of the biggest gap in the cybersecurity or the information security area is the skilled HR in the relevant areas. So Bahria University competed for the indigenous development of the intrusion detection system, and it was not only that we will be developing a software or the front end. We are working on the hardcore algorithms also. We are working on the implementation of those algorithms into the hardware part also, and the prototype is almost ready. We are testing that prototype in our own lab. The software component is also is complete, and it's being put on the trial now, like already mentioned by Mr. Asif. And there have been few members from the industry who have been visiting our lab to see the practical demonstration of the product which we are developing. And inshallah, by the end of this year, we are hoping that we'll be having the hardware component of the IDS built in also, inshallah. In addition to that, the offshoot, once we have a developed HR, which is trained in the information security, then the offshoots come in. So we are having a number of offshoots projects also, which are being emanating from the same lab. And that includes in the area of the SIEM integration with our own, what you call the IDS, and other security components to have an integrated solution to be provided to the industry. Though it's in a very, very early stage for the integration part, but I hope, inshallah, with the passage of time, we'll be in a position to get it in a very, very good shape. Secondly, the university as a lab, we also competed for the new projects also, and we have got a funding for one of project for the development of the open source intelligence and what you call the threat intelligence. And in that too, also Mr. Asif was again very helpful to us in the initial proposal which we submitted, and we have got the funding for the development of this part also. So that could also help the industry in realization the threat vectors which are hampering to their day-to-day work. So with this brief, I would get back to Asif to please continue from there on.
Right. Thank you very much, Dr. Asad and Dr. Nazir. I would like now move to Athar Saab and Razi Saab, who have worked outside Pakistan as well. If they can, first Athar Saab and then Razi Saab can explain that what is the situation and how do we compare what is being done in Pakistan as in the developed world, because we say that Pakistan is not a knowledge-based economy, and those countries are knowledge-based economies. And then we have seen in the recent years that HSC is now given the funding to the universities, because universities had that problem that industry is not giving them the money to get into the product development. Now HSC has given the funding. So is this a right step towards knowledge-based economy? And by the way, what knowledge-based economy actually is, and how can we move towards maturing this economy? Athar Saab and then Razi Saab.
Thanks, Asif. Before I start on knowledge-based, economies and getting into the details and the fundamentals of it, I think I should first mention that the efforts that the government has done, it's stupendous in the last few years, especially in the field of information security. The focus that has been given. I've been going to NAS, being my the university where I graduated from. The progress that university has shown over a period of time, because I could compare what was the state of that university when I was graduating, and I had seen what NAD was at one time, and where I see NAD now, and where I see NAS now. There's a huge progress over there. So before we start critiquing and criticizing, what's not there, I should first mention what is there and what we have already achieved. Now, coming back to the knowledge-based economies, like a term coined by very specialized advanced economies, it is based on certain fundamentals, which currently doesn't exist in that form in Pakistan. If we just look at our literacy rate, we would know that we are nowhere close, because if we do not provide 70% of our population the opportunity to contribute towards that, then we are basically taking away a lot from the country. So we have to basically invest on the grassroots level for certain, so that we provide equal opportunity and the chances of basically striking gold. We are working with a very limited amount of our population to come up with these ideas, to basically have that knowledge set to complement and produce cutting edge technology. So we're far behind as far as our baselines are concerned in this area. And then the segment that we have available, we are trying to then focus on it. Now, you mentioned that funding of universities was recently done through multiple initiatives. One of them was mentioned by Dr. Nazir and Dr. Asad. I was fortunate enough to evaluate those proposals. I received, as part of the industry specialist, I evaluated one of the proposals. And the area of concern that I saw over there, that the partner, one thing, the university was being funded, not the industry partner. So the industry partner was not willing to invest in that particular solution, and the funding shown by the industry partner was zero in the case that I evaluated. So that shows the lack of confidence that industry partner had over that particular solution that was being proposed by the university. And that was one of my primary reasons not to recommend a solution that was being evaluated by me. I'm sure there was similar concern in other areas also, but that's where we need to change. We need to let the industry lead the R&D and the product development, and we should let universities support that R&D by using their resources, by using their cutting edge brains to complement the industry in the direction they want to move. Because ultimately it is the industry's role to sell a product to gauge the market, and then basically come up with a concept which they take to the to different set of university where the labs exist, and then they come up with a product which is sellable in the market, and which people like me and so many others in the industry are willing to invest in as procurer of that particular solution. So in a nutshell, what I would say, yes, we can aspire to be a knowledge-based economy, but we're far behind in our current state to achieve that particular level of excellence. We should try to mimic and copy what many other countries have done in this field, and slowly progress towards that aspiration that we are looking at.
Right. I think that's the right point. And Razi Saab, the point that I read from Athar Saab's feedback, that we cannot have knowledge-based economy unless the industry is willing to put in the amount and the money there. What is your take?
So thank you so much, Asif, and thank you, Athar Saab. Athar Saab made some very valid points. So I was thinking, and based on my experience abroad and into the knowledge-based or ship-centric economies, I was thinking more in terms of, so there are three key facets, so naturally, as Athar Saab pointed out rightly, there has to be continuous investment into the basic research. Because basic research, as our esteemed academics around here would agree, basic research keeps reinforcing the baselines, and the basic research, and the readiness. But I think a second part has got to do with what is happening out there in the world. You see, unfortunately, I have seen, and I may be wrong here, it seems like we are very focused on technology and technology products, which is great. But the drivers for those products, so for example, right now, as we are talking, there's an emerging sort of trend, or the conversation is being steered towards privacy. And the privacy is what driving the security conversations in a lot of those places. And the third thing, which I think is really lacking here, is government support. And mind you, please don't get me wrong, government is providing fantastic support, but as others have said, the industry is not taking up those solutions which is being either developed or patronized by universities. And in UK and Canada, in North America, as we are all aware, so the government, continuously invests into basics research as well as to cutting edge, bleeding edge ideas. But on the other hand, the industry is actually incentivized to take up those, products and output. So for example, and that includes not only the technological solutions, that includes the human element as well. So we all know that in these other states, the government is giving tax breaks, is actually giving, giving part or 50 or 80, up to 80% of the total cash outlays being paid to the interns, because it's critical that the students in the academia is given co-ops and internships into these industries. And industries like, and I don't want to name anybody, but obviously they do not have an incentive. They get the energetic idea. So I think tax breaks, in terms of tax breaks, or incentivizing in terms of cash payments, wages subsidy for co-ops, is a great way to create the demand side of the things. And then, that being, on the other hand, the supply side, government continuously investing. So I think that is my take on terms of that because we have to create the whole value chain, and how do we move up into that value chain? So emerging trends, what are the drivers? Number two, how do we incentivize both the human and the technological products? And how do we funding and educate funding and create incentives for the industry leaders? So that is my take on that. Yeah.
Right. Thank you very much, Razi Saab. And by the way, do you have seen any examples where the government has actually mandated that when they have got a home-based solution developed by a university, or so the private sector or the public sector organizations must take on those home-based solutions?
So absolutely. So I was
Okay.
on an advisory board. I was on an advisory board for a Middle Eastern large economy. I'm not going to name that. And when I was talking to them, it seemed that they have a full-fledged product development, but the king's decree was that 2 boxes each of that developed product, which was IDS and nothing great. But the king decree was whichever organization has more than 2,000 employees and have a cybersecurity have to buy that those two products. Never mind, you put it Cisco's and Junipers and Palo Altos, but you have to buy 2 of those. And I think that sort of creates an incentivizing and a constant revenue and funding flow that also keeps the academics and the researchers, interested and motivated to keep improving that product. So I know at least 2 economies in the Middle East are doing that. And I sometimes wonder, why don't we create such incentives for our, corporations to uptake those products which are being developed?
Right. Thank you very much. And then that's very heartening to listen, especially to people from the education sector, that we are not our guns pointing towards them. Basically, there are many already, as you mentioned, that in our neighborhood, in the Gulf countries, 2 countries have done it. So this is very good. But then on the other hand, who bears the expenses? Because we have these, and as Dr. Asad mentioned, that we have that publishing a paper, getting the rating and getting promoted, because university professors do not get promoted unless they have got research papers published, but they do not get promoted if they have got developed a product. I know a few individuals who are very senior PhDs, but they're not associates, professors or professors, because what they've done, that cannot be published in a research paper. So so my point is that how to make it a commercially viable research product, which actually leads and culminates into a product. And again, the product should not be something which has already been done 20 years ago and we are doing it and we are making it again. As you said, that what are the emerging trends? So what are the emerging trends? Athar Saab and then Razi Saab, what are those emerging trends that universities should focus? Because, okay, we have got SEAM. SEAM is there for the last 20 years. We want IDS. Okay, that IDS is there for the last 20 years. But that IDS and SEAM has not been able to prevent the breaches. So what do we need 5 years from now? And by the way, artificial intelligence has become a very hot subject these days. But I myself studied 2 courses of artificial intelligence during my bachelor's 20 years ago in a British university. So they were teaching AI 20 years ago. So what should we teach and where should we move towards that emerging technology and what courses should be taught? Athar Saab.
Asif, I'm glad that you basically brought up the commercially viable element of the solution. Razi mentioned like forcing organization to buy stuff. Like I somehow to a certain extent disagree with that particular notion. And I think like that basically sells an inferior product and does not encourages our people to compete with the market, because ultimately it's not just selling the product in the Pakistani market. It's the maximum amount of profit that we are going to get when it becomes a commercially viable product, and people across the world are willing to accept our solution. And we don't have to force it on corporates, but for corporates actually and the companies actually happily accept that product, and that product is commercially viable. The main point is it should be commercially, whether it's that cheap that like as compared to the other solutions, it gives basic feature sets, but it is cheap enough to opt for it, or it has those cutting edge technologies which the others don't have, and it is stable and viable, and it becomes you are willing to pay more for it also. So it depends, like again the point that you have just made, commercially viable. So if the product is commercially viable, it will sell not only in Pakistan, not only in one organization, across the entire globe. And these days, like selling a product across in the entire world is not difficult. We have got venues through which we can basically sell our product, and like multiple developers are producing, multiple companies in Pakistan are producing products, and they managed to sell it across the globe. Now, there are certain limitations when it comes to security products. The level of encryption that is available to us, and the one that we can offer in other organizations. There are some certain export restrictions on third world countries, especially Pakistan and few others, which becomes an impediment in basically using certain basic techniques within our security product. But if we don't move in the direction of encryption, there are other areas where we can basically invest in, and those ideas can be explored. And we can produce either our own level of basically encryption techniques, or basically other areas where our security products can be utilized. Now, one area where I would basically request and encourage the industry which is producing these products to focus on is the security at the infrastructure level. And there are companies, without naming them, they have come up with amazing stuff which covers basically both IAM, basically, and this is one solution that they've produced which covers all the three elements. It covers IAM, it covers basically the NAC elements, and it covers the baseline security that you can offer on the LAN and the WAN. So these are the kind of solutions which people in the industry are looking for. A layer which you can produce, which can ensure secure communications, secure storage, and secure access to the networks within the corporation. So I would certainly welcome organizations to work in these areas. SOC is just one area where like the products are being developed. Like, but what happens on the privilege access management? What are we doing with regards to securing our databases? Like now, for instance, I'll name a product, Guardium is there. Like, has there been anything similar to that particular product within our industry? But before we start producing products which are technically very advanced, there are so many areas which are simple to manage, like change management systems, and indigenously produce a change management system which would facilitate the industry. A change monitoring system could be easily developed, which basically just gives us the deltas of the changes being produced on our networks and our databases and all that. So these are the kind of solutions which can be introduced in conjunction with SIEM, and the industry would be willing to invest in it because it reduces the amount of man hours that are spent, and this kind of skill sets we lack in our industry, because it needs a specialist to understand what is the change that has taken place, what can be the significance of it and the impact of it. If a solution can be produced for that, it can quite easily integrate with our SIEM solution, and people like me would be willing to invest in. There are solutions which would help us basically gauge and monitor our perimeters. I guess like there's a bit of a noise out somewhere.
Ashish Khan, can you please mute your mic? Ashish or Aisha, or if the host can mute his mic.
Host should mute the mic. Ashish Khan.
Okay, I think somebody is not even listening to what we are saying.
Yes, correct.
Guys, I will take a little. Sorry, actually, I was so busy listening. I will do it.
Okay. So
Right, thank you.
I'm just saying, like, there are products in their areas. For instance, like we having the ability to 24/7 monitor our controls. Now, there can be a solution, and I'm sure like a few Pakistanis are working on it also, where we can basically, a CISO would get the comfort level that our controls are robust, and any new vulnerability that has come in, which are like thousands every day that get introduced, we're able to validate that we are not vulnerable or exposed to the threats which can exploit those vulnerabilities. And there are mechanisms that can be introduced. You can basically host a VM or a sandbox within the organization and constantly bombard that. And it's a mimic of the environment within the organization. And if you can produce that and give us a comfort level that like our parameter controls and our basically layered controls within the organization are not letting those vulnerabilities exploited by the threats which are available in the market, that would be a big comfort level. And I'm sure like if those kind of solutions are introduced, so people like me would certainly like to invest in that. And I'm saying like nobody would need to ask me to basically opt for those solutions. I would be happily investing in that particular product. So these are some of the work streams that we can work on. But I think the most important product in Pakistan these days is our human resource trained on information security. If we have those, we can equip our organization with these set of people and launch a number of projects and basically programs within these institutes that we are managing. So I think the biggest shortage is the manpower. If we have those within the organization, we can implement a number of other solutions in the organization.
Right. So Razi, we need to have that skill-based and rightly trained manpower. What are those areas or courses which universities are not teaching and they should start teaching? For example, malware analysis, for example, cyber threat intelligence, for example, incident response. Do you think these are the things that we need, or we need something else?
So some great points made by Athar right there, and thank you, Asif, for highlighting that. So while Athar was speaking, and I was thinking, what would, if something comes up to me, if Dr. Asad and Dr. Nazir comes up to me, and say, well, where do we invest? The government says, where do we invest? So I would certainly say, look at the globe, the demand side. You see, as you just mentioned, commercially viable product, and the commercially viable product is always driven by the demand. So where are the niche? Without being sounding too pessimistic, you see, IDSs and IPSs, and mind you, I'm not saying that, but they are great products. But I think, as I just mentioned, there's a huge demand, developing demand for the next few years for data protection and privacy, centered around data protection, privacy. We all are aware of EU's GDPR. We all are aware of US national, privacy regulations, Canadian PIPEDA, health-related HIPAA, PIPEDA, and those are the pain points of real organizations, because a lot of these regulators and government agencies and the ecosystem comes down very hard if the privacy data is compromised. And if you think about it, that data essentially drives the security solutions around that, So I think, to answer your question, Asif Saab, I think I certainly see a yawning gap in terms of where the industry is moving towards globally, and where we need to plug those gaps in terms of training. So for example, training on what are the regulatory broader, I'm not saying, teach the whole law or legal perspective, but what are the broader sort of demands in terms of, right to forget, and it's pretty standard now, right to forget. Are our products ready to do that? Right to create a register of who accessed my data. And these are becoming huge a huge demands and huge sort of, creating a lot of not only demand, but controversies in the more developed society, which, by the way, are the consumers. Because, so that is number one. So in terms of, I think, the academic preparation, I felt that is a big demand. And mind you, there's no demand for that privacy data protection here. But that, I think, something which could drive a commercially viable product. The second thing I was thinking, and so, and Athar Sahab, as you just mentioned, so I'm sure you will pick up those, to your point that you will like to have a commercially viable, but I'm sure you would pick it up, something developed by Nazir or Bahria. And here's a challenge which I have faced. When the internal and external auditors come in, they say, oh, well, guess what? Wait a minute. You didn't get the product which was in the leading quadrant of Gartner. Oh, well, it was not in the challenger. So wait a minute, you get the wrong thing. And guess what? Now we are going to put all sorts of, scrupulous ideas on you. So I think that also needs to be managed. How we established, the academia and the industry establishes those linkages with these, the Forresters and the Gartners, in terms of perhaps, bringing our developed products onto the roadmap. So that is a key area, I think, which we need to sort of look into. And third, as Athar Sahab and you rightly pointed out, is the courses, the academia courses. We still see Dr. Nazir and Dr. Asad Arfeen, but I think as in our organizations, we say security is everyone's job. I think that awareness and culture needs to go across the fabric of academia, that security mindset need to be taught by somebody who's teaching electrodynamics, somebody who's teaching, thermodynamics, and I know I'm giving extreme examples, but I think those are the few things which we certainly should look into. Yeah.
Right. Thank you very much. So, Dr. Asad and Dr. Nazir, let me just say plainly what Athar Sahab and Razi Sahab said, that you have chosen Bahria University Islamabad to develop an IDS, and Dr. Asad at NID have chosen to develop a SIEM solution. But this SIEM solution and that IDS solution has to compete with Cisco, with Palo Alto, with Fortinet, with IBM, with Logarithm, with Splunk. So that's one thing. So is it a good commercial decision to get into a product line which is already so mature and established, or should we go towards something emerging technology needs, as Razi Sahab mentioned, the data privacy related products? So how would you explain your decisions to come up with an homegrown IDS and SIEM solution and making it commercially viable and competing, at least in Pakistan?
Okay, I think Athar Sahab and Razi Sahab made very good points. And I, being the part of academia as well as to industry, I think both can bear me out if I say something now. Okay, so we say that there is a lot of what you call the HR shortage, that there are about millions of jobs which are in the world, and we are not finding the right people to deploy for those jobs. That's a very true saying. If we just go back and see that the current people who are working in the information security, including myself, Asad Sahab, Asif Sahab, Athar Sahab, we were not the graduates of the information security. We were graduates of the telecom, we were graduates of the computer science and all other fields, but none of us is graduate of the cyber security. None of us has gone through a 4-year degree program to get a cybersecurity degree and then start working in the information security or cybersecurity domain. Moreover, what is happening right now in the industry is that once we say industry, we think that there is a academia who is going to develop a product, and that product is going to be made part of the industry, and industry is going to use that product. And we miss one of the intermediary part, That is that there has to be an intermediary industry part who is going to be the producer of that product also. We need to understand that the academia is there for the what you call the basic research, the R&D part, the prototyping and all that thing. We can be expecting that from the academia. But now expecting an academia to transform the products which are commercially viable to be adopted by the industry, I think it's a big call. It's a big shot. Asking too much from somebody who are not that much geared up. Now, let me give you an example right now. Even once we were there in the setting up or establishing the what you call these national center, and one of the for which I am the part, National Center of Cybersecurity. Once the academia or the universities were preparing the proposals, I am sorry to say that it was only the academia who were making the proposals. Industry was there only to gauge us. Industry was only there to grill us. Industry was only there to ask questions to us. Why you are not doing this? Why you are not doing this? What will be the cost benefit? Why should I invest into it? This is the hard reality. Once we want that we should have a commercially viable product, then we need to join hands. The end user industry, so let me put it in a three way now. So once we say the industry, so there is going to be an end user industry. Okay, maybe the financial industry is an end user industry, or another industry could be an end user industry. But where is that industry? Where is that information security industry who is producing the products for the Pakistan? Do we have that? Why we always talk about the Cisco? Why we talk of the Juniper? Why we talk of the Palo Alto and all the big names in the world? Why don't we give any name from the Pakistan? So once we don't have that big names coming from the Pakistan, so that essentially means that we need to link hands. We need to link hands. We need to think out of the box now. And out of the box solution is that academia has got its own, what you call a mandate, a responsibility, whereby they need to get the students through a degree program, maybe a 4-year degree program for undergrad, a 1.5-year degree program for an MS, and a PhD if we add that to also. So we are, and even in the Pakistan, we are all sitting here and we all are very clear the financial status of the universities, how the funding is being acquired, what is the liberty to the even the supervisors, the project supervisor, how much liberty do we have? Even in the current scenario, in the NCCS labs, not only NCCS, even other projects lab also, there were a lot of problems for the disbursement of the funds. The liberty of the executioners, the liberty of the project leads to spend the money as they want or to on the people on whom they want. There were bureaucratic channels which were always there. Once we went out initially to find the right people to put at us as our team leads, our research associate, research assistants, we faced a lot of problem in fetching the right people to do the research even. And now what is in the industry, what's happening? Please bear me out. The industry is not putting in effort in producing the HR. What is generally happening is that maybe what you call stealing may not be the right word, but the industry is fetching the people from one industry to bring it to their side. Okay, maybe there is some good guy who is working in one industry. The industry puts in, gives them an offer of a better offer and pulls them towards himself. Or maybe there are a few areas where the industry or the organization put money on those individuals to be trained. So the industry is looking for those individuals to be freed from those organizations to be part of the industry. So there is a problem. Now, what is there has to be an out of the box solution. And out of the box solution should be that the end user industry, the industry which is going to be the intermediate, which I'm calling the information security industry, they need to think out of the box to create an R&D centers in the industry. Any industry where we have an R&D center, we are getting the products out of it. And you all are privy to the many great products which we have. And they were not produced in the academia. They were produced by the industry, pulling the academia inside for the research element, putting in a lot of investment. So to generate that particular product, which is required for our nation, for our country. In the similar way, if we want today that we are eyeing for a particular product, so that essentially means that the industry has to join hands, shake hands with the academia to get their product out. So the academia is a kind of a source which has got the research potential. They may be in a position to give a what you call the right approach towards the research. But once we start comparing ourselves, we always compare with the first one. Once we talk of if somebody is developing things, we will bring up the Cisco, we will bring up the Juniper, we will bring up the Palo Alto, the FortiGate, and all those who put in billions and billions of dollars in the research. And if you compare the amount of funding which was given to these centers and compare it with even the one product which is being developed by the leading R&D organization, it's peanut to that particular product. Honestly speaking, let me be very blunt on it. There is a saying, it says that if you want to have a $1 product, you need to invest $100 into it. We want to invest $5 and we want to earn $100 out of it. We always think of commercially viable. This commercially viable thing is, I agree, there is no harm in thinking of commercially viable phenomena. But the point is, the commercially viable thing is not to be think by the end user, by the end user industry. It is to be thought by the industry who is going to produce those information security products. Do we have any name who are there in our Pakistan, in our society, in our setup? If somebody can name me an organization or an industry which is the mid-tier industry, shaking hand with both things. Yes, there are exceptions. There are many examples, and we are privy to those also. And where that handshake was taken care, we have got amazing results out. And I think if we want to progress in this area, we need to be following the same approach. We need to be building up maybe the consortiums. The consortium, one of the projects on which I was working once I was doing my PhD, it was the Mobile VC, Mobile Virtual Center of Excellence. And it was consortium of 20 different organizations, which included 13 industries shaking hand with each other. There were 7 universities. I was the one who were taking care of the information security, and there were 6 other universities also. So a consortium of 20 industry academia partner was created to develop one of the product, and that product was developed. That was very, very, very effective product, where the modules were individually given to the universities to develop, to work on them, and the industry partners were the one who were leading those. I was working with the Vodafone, so the funding was given by the Vodafone. It was not given by the government, and the Vodafone was directing us. This is the output where we want. And we had the access to the latest development tools. We had the access to the latest development research portions. So if holistically speaking, we want to have a product which is commercially viable, it will not happen till the time the industry is only looking for a product and academia is only looking for an R&D, only looking for a research portion. See, if we put a slight change into the academic, that change, the effect of that change may take 4 years to come up. And if we want a fast solution, we need to have the R&D centers from the industria linking with the academia to develop the prototype products and then commercializing them. I'm sorry if I said
yes, that's very that's what we are here to listen actually. And it's good to have this point raised up that we don't just need the consumer of the products and the universities. There is this information security consulting practices, like Kaspersky is a company which is not buying the products, it is developing the products. So we need to have those organizations in Pakistan who are working in information security, and they take on the research from the universities and try to make them commercially viable. But I like to put Dr. Asad the same question and his thoughts on why did NAD choose to develop a SIEM solution where we already have so many SIEM solutions. So how can we compete there?
Thank you, Asif sir, for giving me the chance to speak. A university professor life is sometimes very easy and sometimes very difficult, and we have two ways: either to go the usual way, just teach and come back, and the other way is that on top of it, we have to work with the industry and get the grants and do the product development. So I tried my best to choose the other way, so that to work with the industry. And then when I tried to participate in the competition, I approached the industry. And then I got a feedback from the industry because I have to make a proposal, and I'm still making proposals. I'm submitting every 2-3 months. I'm trying to compete with international grants and local grants. One of the feedback which I get from industry, and for this grant as well, that okay, Asad, do not go to the endpoint. Do not invest or do not do research in endpoint because the products are so mature that you cannot compete in the endpoint security. And then you can work on internet security, and you can work on other technologies like quantum technology or kind of forensics. So forensics is also kind of a bit of endpoint. So I was more encouraged to work towards internet security or something which relates to the integration of endpoint security and the internet security. So that's why I tried to follow that way. Because the thing is that it's not about the reinventing the wheel. In Pakistan, we have to make sure that we should have technological independence. Although SIEM is there for 20 years and IDS is there for many years, but we cannot go like this. These years can continue for long. We have to stop this cycle. We have to develop our own indigenous SIEM solution, because this is something lifeline, which for a lifeline cycle, lifeline for local industry. Such backbone, we have very as my colleague Dr. Nazir said, and Asif Saab said, that there are solutions like IBM Curadar, ArcSight. They are so much expensive, but they have a good support. They really work. But how can I compete with them? The other question with Asif Saab is that how can I make my solution industry viable, or what you call it as a commercially viable? So initially, I tried to develop my my SIEM solution from the code zero level, from the basic source engine level. Then I was discouraged. But the thing is that I must thank the local industry from NCCPL, Pakistan Stock Exchange, the professionals who guided me that, okay, do not start from the point zero. You have to start from somewhere which you can be commercially viable. So I got an idea that Alien Vault has released an open kind of open source version of its solution, and I can work on top of it. But then the problem is that there are examples in which commercial giants have released their open source or community editions. But the thing is that these are very limited, and at some they are limited in terms of EPS, they are limited in terms of sampling, and various features are very limited. And you can work till certain extent, and then you are totally helpless in their open source variants. But they are there to help you understand. So what I did, I used Awesome as a base engine, and then when I got stuck in this Awesome, because it was an open source variant of Alien Vault, then. But the thing is that experience was great. But then I went and I because the code the code allows to break into this code. So I spent months and months, complete lockdown period, to disintegrate the code, and I developed more and more features, and I add more and more connectors. So now, alhamdulillah, in my SIEM, I am totally independent in terms of EPS, in terms of sampling period, and I have tried to add threat intelligence feeds and asset discovery and a file integrity module. And one of the very important points mentioned by Athar Saab, that he mentioned that although overall SIEM is a good solution, but we as a university, we should also make smaller components like Pakistan Stock Exchange. They say that, oh, Asad, we do not want your SIEM. We want file integrity module. So that helped me a lot in making the file, because the deltas are very important, because industries want first of all, they want what's the chain. Is my solution able to uncover the hidden properties or hidden changes going on into the network? So that's why. So then independently, I work on the file integrity module, and then I try to integrate with the same solution which I developed. And then this experience of making two solutions and then integrating them together give me an idea and give my customers an idea that, oh, this solution can be integratable and it can be commercially viable. So that's why I'm trying to, and that's why, alhamdulillah, I have some success in getting into industry, and NCCPL and PSX are on board with me.
Thank you very much, Dr. Asad. And I think we should now also have a session dedicated for NLD University, where you will demonstrate your solution that you have been deployed with NCCPL and PSX and the funding that you just approved
Yes, sir.
yesterday.
Yes, I think please allow me, because there is a competition in October last year, HEC Technology Transfer Research Technology Transfer Support Fund. It's not research fund, it is Technology Transfer Support Fund. And the main idea, there were two conditions for eligibility: successful start and industry partner. So I had a kind of successful startup before, because there was some, you might have heard about by deployment and seen, but that was just about very basic features. But then I applied in that grant. And then and there were in Pakistan almost 700 proposals were submitted all over the Pakistan, and there were quite extensive evaluation. And then finally, after 2 rounds, only 8 proposals were awarded. This includes the security and threat intelligence platform. And that's not about me only. And I plan to involve because the Turkish embassy also contacted us for their capital market as well. And we are in touch with Pakistani capital market. And inshallah, because this is not just I have a small team. It needs an entire big team for this. IBM Curadar has just for one function, one module, they have 200 such staff working on it. So inshallah, I'm trying my best that we all can work together to make our local threat fields of Pakistan, to make our local malware databases, so which can so that we can cover entire endpoint security and internet security and all of this. And there, because the missing thing is the integration. So we can inshallah make both.
Yes, and the good thing is that we not only have you, but we also have Dr. Nazir from Bahria University. They've also been approved for the same cyber threat intelligence initiative.
Yes,
so
yes.
We will have inshallah ta'ala demo from Bahria University as well as from ND University, perhaps
Yes,
if we
inshallah.
can do it during the month of Ramzan. So we will
Yes, of
see.
course.
But moving forward, I think it's very good news that we are basically getting from the universities, and also that you've got the product deployed already in the industry. But coming on the other side, that's the main function of a university, because making a university and transforming a university of one of its projects into an entrepreneurship. Can a university become an entrepreneur? So that's a question that universities have to answer themselves. So that's one thing. And as Dr. Nazir said, is it correct? Is it right to expect universities to become entrepreneurs, to become profitable organizations by selling the products? When the teachers teach economics in the universities, they don't become the people who are managing the economics of the country. So what I'm trying to say, that the other end of this discussion is having those human skill-based human resources in information security. Is ND University doing this MS program, and also at Bahria University Islamabad? Are you teaching the right courses? What do you think about your own courses that you're teaching? First Dr. Nazir and then Dr. Asad, and then we will have feedback on this human resource problems that we have in this industry by Athar and Razi. Dr. Nazir.
Assalamu alaikum ji. Just a minute. I will just add one thing. Dr. Yasir Salim from UET Lahore. So it's very nice listening to other our Dr. Sahab, Dr. Nazir pointed out very ground reality at our institutes. Since it is a public sector and NED will be facing same issues. That Alhamdulillah in UET, I was the one who actually first time introduced the information security course at MS level. But now Alhamdulillah at UET, we have initiated in computer science, MS cybersecurity. And also we have another institute, Al-Khwarizmi Institute, Dr. Ghalib, and these guys, maybe some of you are already known to you. They are planning to start the ICT, the course, a similar type of course in security as well. Okay, so first thing which I would like to say, because I had one meeting with eBricks, Dr. Farooq Shehzad from there. So we were having this problem that we do not have human resource, because if it will not be taught properly at university level, we will not have the students who will be working on this. So this is one thing should be considered, as you just mentioned, कि क्या हम सही कोर्स पढ़ा भी रहे हैं. That's one thing. The other thing, क्या हम ये पढ़ा भी रहे हैं कि नहीं. सही कोर्स तो एक स्टेप आगे है. NEST has taken the initiative long time before, NED and now Bahria. लेकिन GUT इसमें बहुत पीछे थी. I'm not sure about Punjab University at the moment. तो पहले तो ये कि ये जो हमारी computer science is the program which is launched in very आप कह सकते हैं कि बहुत बड़ी तादाद में लॉन्च हुआ है. तो क्या उसमें इंफॉर्मेशन सिक्योरिटी पढ़ाई भी जाती है कि नहीं. ये एक बहुत बड़ा पॉइंट है कि ये अभी बैचलर लेवल पर शायद इंट्रोड्यूस ही इतनी ज्यादा नहीं हुई. और मेरा ख्याल है कि हमें इसको भी टेकअप करना है कि बैचलर लेवल में HEC से बात करके कि बैचलर लेवल पे इंफॉर्मेशन सिक्योरिटी के जिस तरह हम इकोनॉमिक्स पढ़ाते हैं और जिस तरह हम उनको कुछ अवेयरनेस देते हैं एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप की, इस तरह इंफॉर्मेशन सिक्योरिटी की अवेयरनेस भी चाहिए. आई थिंक दैट कैन बी वन पॉइंट. ओके, सॉरी फॉर इंटरप्शन.
No, thank you, Dr. Yasir. We will definitely have you in our upcoming session as well. But by the way, there are BS cybersecurity programs being done in many universities in the country already. Dr. Nazir, coming back to my initial question to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Asif. I think part of my question has already been answered by Dr. Yasir and yourself also. Once we see about a decade back, there was no undergrad cybersecurity or information security program in Pakistan. And it was basically the computer science students or the telecom or the electrical engineering students who were expected to be the part of the industry to serve as the cybersecurity specialists. And once we even think of the security, we always think that security is going to be something which is going to be sprinkled upon the, what you call, a product is developed and then you sprinkle cybersecurity on that and it's becoming secure. It is not going to function like that. In our current degree programs, as I have mentioned in my this previous slot which was given to me, the degree program, if you focus on the degree programs are based on a broader understanding of the concepts. That essentially means to say that, yes, if we see the computer science students, we don't expect them that once you come out, they are going to be something that they are going to be producing the products by themselves. So at the undergrad level, you need to have a broader based concept education, which requires a lot of what you call the breadth of the knowledge is more rather than the depth of the knowledge in individual subjects. And that is supplemented if the same students, they go for the MS programs. Generally, once industry sees a guy who is just graduated, they compare him with the products which they are hosting in their organizations. They want that once he's come out, a student is coming out of the university, he is going to be ready-made available to them to just take on the assignments, the tasks, the products, the management given to him. I think there has to be a cushion in between. That cushion means essentially means say that if we are the courses which are being taught, there is a de-link. There is no linkage between the industry and the academia, where the industry is asking the academia that please teach so and so tools. And once we even talk of the tools, so or the skill set, generally we think skill to be something which is relevant to individual products. The undergrad degree programs or to my point of view, even the master program should not be based on the products, on the hardware, on the products of individual one of the company. Recently, I got a proposal whereby there was one of the product developer who was putting in his own complete paraphernalia into an MS program. And I resisted that because once you teach the student in BS and MS degrees specific to the hardware, specific to a product, you are hooking them on to that particular product. They will continue to be working like that. We are all example of that. We all have been, okay, if we just minus the guys, we are working in information security, so we are good at maybe good at the Linux also. But imagine in Pakistan, how many use what you call Linux? Because they are hooked on to the Windows from the day one. So wherever they go, they want to use Windows. Even knowing the fact that the Windows has got so and so many vulnerabilities and the Linux may be a better platform, but they don't shift easily to those platforms. So I think what is required to be done is that in the academia, the broad-based concepts once they are being taught, the industry has to join hands over there also. The industry should be conducting courses relevant to them, maybe in during their summer program, or maybe a fast-track program at the end of their degree programs. Even in many organizations, which I know very well, once the people join in, they are not gauged, they are not based on individual products expertise. They are being examined, they are being interviewed based on the broader concept of the area. And once they are recruited or they are employed, then dedicated training are being provided to those individuals to work on the products specific to the organization. That's how it's going to be functioning. And that is the concept. Even in the commercial world, we have the attorneys who come into play, and then they may be joining the industry subsequently. A very good example of the medical profession. It's may not be relevant to this thing, but you know, every medical university or a medical college is linked with a hospital, whereby those individuals who are studying the medicine, they go and practice the same thing into that industry, which is the hospital. We don't have any such kind of linkages where the degrees which are relevant to the information security, the individuals are given a chance to work and go maybe during their breaks to work in the information security industry. We don't give that chance to them. So that is one of the reasons that we have got this much gap between the I'm sorry, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, sorry. I think there was something, it just switched off and it switched on back again now. Okay, so I was just saying that we need to think on a model where the individuals who are studying at the undergrad level or the master level, they need to be engaged with the industry, whereby they are given a hands-on training on the tools where they would like to be employed upon. The first interaction with an undergrad degree program by the industry is once the university or the college is open for the open house and they are showcasing their products. So industry comes in, they see the products of the students, and a better student gets an option to go and work in a better industry. But before that, do we have any example whereby the undergrad students working in second year, third year are provided chances to come and work with the industry? So if we want to tailor the courses, there has to be more linkage between the industry and academia. We do talk a lot about the industry academia linkages, but that doesn't go deeper into the implementation part. And the implementation part comes in where the industry defines, industry tells, industry guides the academia that they need to be having some tailored courses for these individuals. And those tailored courses maybe could be of the products. Whereas the degrees are broader concepts. Maybe an undergrad degree, like I started off with my discussion, that all of the guys which we are sitting here and talking today as a panelist, none of us has got a cybersecurity degree. Once we came into the industry, we got hooked onto it, and today we are the experts in our own domains. And if you remember, even the computer science, once it was not offered as a degree, the people who used to study mathematics, MSc Maths, they used to be coming and serving in the as a computer scientist. They were the people who were initially groomed to do the computer science job. Even they were groomed to study the programming languages because it was thought that the mathematicians can be good computer programmers. So I think instead of just focusing on the courses, that these are the courses which need to be tailored, for sure there may be some addition, but the courses should be broader based concepts which should provide the broader base to understand the new world challenges. The skill set has to be derived from the university, where there may be courses, maybe a 1 week course, maybe a 2 week, maybe a month course, which is tailored toward the individual industry. Industries should identify those areas, those academic institutes, those programs, whereby they plug in themselves. They identify the student. They train them to be part of those industries once they graduate. Unfortunately, there is no such linkages. There are exceptions always. I'm just speaking in a generic term. There are exceptions always there. But there has to be a linkage whereby the industry is integrating itself with the undergrad degree programs, asking the students or selecting the student at early on stage and giving them the option to work on the products which are in the industry. Generally, I can say with the confidence that once even the academic programs are finished, are over, because they have got their own requirements. The HEC has got its own requirement. The degree programs have to be tailored according to the requirement of the certification bodies. There are numerous certification bodies. NCCS has got its own mechanism, and HEC has got own, PEC has got own mechanism. So once we see this big problem, so now the industry has to come in. The industry has to come and join hand with the academia, with the students in the maybe second year, maybe third year, maybe in the fourth year, and get them on board onto the products or the skill set which they require from those students. So if we work in a way that the academia should tailor courses which are going to be reflecting outward into the, and they once they come out and they are directly going to be plugged in. We are talking this thing for the last 2 decades. I have been talking on this issue for a longer time, and I'm still talking. We until unless we don't join hands, the industry and academia sit together, we will face this problem for a longer time.
Just one point, Nazeer Saab, you mentioned a couple of things, and I couldn't resist myself. Compliment some of them, and then just give my perspective on some of, or the industry perspective on some. You've rightly mentioned that there are 2 different kind of industries. One are the information security specialists, which I mentioned right at the beginning. The product development should be handled not by the universities. The product development and its commercial viability aspect should be handled by the information security industry, the industry specialists.
True.
And I think there's no doubt about that. And like we agree internationally, that has been a successful model. It is not basically MIT, which will start the basically product development. It'll be Cisco or some other basically company, which will then basically go to a person like you in a leading university and say, this is what I want to develop. How can you help me develop this product? And that is where the industry basically finance that particular product development and gets help from the academia, and the R&D. The specialists will tell them, this is how much it would cost you, and this is the kind of funding that I would require. And then I would be able to help you out, design this product or develop this product. So I think that is the approach that we should also have in Pakistan, rather than just going and asking a university to start developing a product and then make it financially viable. I don't think so. That's the right approach. And I believe like that's the consensus that we are coming to over here also. So there is a slight.
I fully agree. I fully agree. Yeah.
So that is one area where I wanted to basically complement and clarify how we should move forward. The other area that you mentioned, and I'm sure Dr. Asad also mentioned, is the contribution of academia and how academia can help out the industry. Again, there are 2 kinds of industry. One is the specialists, as the SMEs of the products of information security. And then the other one is the consumption of those products, including your human resources. On that particular aspect, like I believe there is a disconnect, as you already mentioned. And people like me and others who sit in the consumption part of the industry, we should also contribute in the form of awareness sessions, go to the universities, present what we know as IS, and as you mentioned, we learn through banging our head against the wall and learning on the job. But that is not what we should expect our new generation to go through. The amount of time that we wasted learning all these skill sets, I don't think so our new generation should be wasting that much time, and we should be able to give them a concise package on what needs to be done in an industry on a consumption side, and what is expected in the product development side of the SMEs of information security. So I believe both of us, which includes Asif, because he is now working for another kind of an industry, and myself, and people like me in the industry where we consume your products and services, I've done my part as much as possible, and I'm trying to contribute in Karachi also. But I'm sure like people like me should also be invited by the academia, that we are willing to offer you space and time in our summer course, and we would want you to present what is it that you require and how do you utilize our resources in the consumption part of the industry. And if that is introduced, if you encourage people like me to come in and present that this is how we utilize your services in the industry, and this is where the shortage is, and this is the kind of skill sets we require. Trust me, some of your students are intelligent enough to understand where this consumption is, and they basically strive on their own. And by the time we hire them or they are ready as a product, they have acquired those skill sets on their own, because a lot is available on the internet, and you know, they set up their own labs. They basically have the they've acquired all those skills which the industry requires, and those are the kind of people which progress in the industry at a very rapid pace. I've basically trained people who were not even graduates, and I picked them up, and within 4 years the guy was above an AVP level, and coming from a very humble, simple background, no push, no pull mechanism, only on his own. So that's what I'm trying to say. Like, yes, there are exemplary individuals who quickly learn what the industry requires, and since it gets in line with his own interest also, those kind of people are able to progress quicker in the industry. So we need to pave path for those kind of individuals and individuals who do not have an idea where to head, to go and basically at least tell them where the demand is, and if you acquire this skill set, and they can learn that skill set through online courses. Even if you're not offering it, there are opportunities out there in the world which basically they can utilize and you know, develop the skill sets. But it would be ideal if there is a professor who can guide these individuals on those areas. And I'm willing to help out, and I'm sure there are many others in the industry who are willing to help out academia, tailor their courses to help us consume those products of yours, which is in this case the human resource, in our organizations. And trust me, there are some exemplary students which come out, but most of them have acquired these skills on their own. If those can be facilitated by the professors, and because again, like as you mentioned, you and I learn most of the thing by banging our head against the wall, by basically learning skills on our own. But if we can basically, you know, concise and make a tailored solution for these students and present it to them in a fashion that can inspire them to head in that direction, so that would help.
Yes,
so
thank you, Athar
that's
Saab, for yes, thank you for mentioning about information security boutique firms as well. And I never thought that this can also happen. But Razi Saab, what courses are required to be taught in information security to look at the upcoming trends and the demands of the industry within Pakistan and outside Pakistan? What needs to be done? Which courses are required?
Thank you, Asif. So I've been thinking and hearing my esteemed panelists around here, you know, and thinking along the same lines which you just mentioned. I think, you know, obviously, you know, we are all aware of the 8 domains or the 11 domains or the 12 domains, and we can teach all that it is. But I think a key skill set, you know, so number one, there's a dimension of technical aspect, you know. So I'm being with K Electric, you know, non-financial, you know, and a large part of my area of responsibility has got to do with non-IT, you know, the SCADA and the ICS. And I mean, you know, I have real challenge finding people. Obviously, as we are discussing here, I need to get people with the right background and train them on those. So I think that is one area, because as we are all aware, National Electric Regulatory Commission, NERC, you know, C2M2s, and the critical infrastructure CIP protection directives, there is a growing demand, you know, and as cybersecurity moves into cyber warfare, the the centricity of financial institutions, which is primarily driven by criminal gangs, is now perhaps we see a lot of nation state actors, going into. And we all know, what happened with Ukraine and Crimea, and the players in it. So I think our academicians, and happy to discuss with both Dr. Nazeer and all our esteemed professors here and Dr. Asad in terms of what could be and should be taught as a skill set. But here's what I was also thinking. So, we can have armies, and mashallah, we do have armies of technically diligent people. And in our whole discussion today, I think I felt there was a missing piece of the ecosystem. We talked about funding, so the universities have the funding and the district, but the ecosystem of the middleman, of the intermediary, in terms of angel investors, and so we do not unfortunately have an ecosystem of angel investors or round one or round two of funding, and I think so. I think few of those courses should certainly be centered around the business aspect, creating the entrepreneurs out of the cutting edge, bleeding edge. So angel funding, we all know 90% goes down the drain, 10% those become unicorns. So how do we impart training where students, if they go into entrepreneurship, how do they recognize the unicorns of out there on the landscape? The round one, round two funding, and mind you, that's not got to do with the the MBAs and the CFAs, the engineers. I think I've seen internationally there is a yawning gap in terms of the elevator pitch. So as you are aware, the fundings are there, the VCs are there, the angel fundings are there. They say, give me an elevator pitch, 6 slides, you have 2 minutes, sell me the idea, or we move on. And unfortunately, while our few of the ideas I've seen from our students are fantastic, they just didn't have the skill set how to put that together and how to convey that together, because that language which convinces them, which swings the opinion. So I think while we are looking at the hard skills, we should certainly look into creating the soft skills which could create that sort of language. And from my, and I excuse me for this little expanded, but from my own experience, I was trying to hire, I've been in positions where I was trying to hire, and obviously I was preferring our countrymen, Pakistanis. And one key thing I realized was that the interviewing skill sets, the communication skill sets, the right language, the body language, unfortunately was not there. And I don't want to put it, but our society somehow have become bordering on brash or hard, rather than choosing and picking the courteous right messaging, softer messaging, and that has been a challenge. So I hope you're picking up what I'm trying to say here. So I think those are the kind of things as well. So apart from the more traditional security domains, there are the new ones like SCADA and ICS and the critical infrastructure. And then there is the funding and the entrepreneurship languages. And then there are the languages how you start getting noticed and pulling things together on the international level. Yeah, thank you.
Right, thank you very much, Razi Saab. And then I just read a comment from Zohair Iftikhar, who says that he also did his master's in information security from Royal Holloway. So Dr. Nazir has PhD from Royal Holloway. Zohair is from also having done his MSc, and then currently the CISO of Bank Islami, who was previously working with Nadra, and before Nadra, he was working with National Response Center of Cyber Crimes as a forensic investigator. Ali Imran is also a graduate from Royal Holloway. So we have those individuals rightly educated and with the industry experience. And then there are universities who are taking up feedback from the industry as well. Just to give an example, that Air University, when they were trying to start their bachelor's program in cybersecurity, they sent their proposed course outline. It was a 100-page document with the funding, with the tools, with the lab infrastructure mentioned in it. and they sent that 100-page document to at least 8 or 9 people in the industry, and we were able to give them the input, and they actually took that input, and now I can see that those inputs are part of their industry programs. And I think that needs to be done with the MS programs as well. As Zuhair has just mentioned in his comments, that one of the points that he mentioned, that some of the courses are delivered only by the industry professionals. So when you have started doing bachelor's program, what else are you going to teach in the MS program? What you can do, as suggested by Zuhair, that we can have industry-led curriculum taught by the industry professionals, not by a university professor. And then for 6 months, though that class going into the industry, working under the CISOs, and then coming back, doing a thesis and getting the degree. So that will create that ecosystem, and that will also create that soft skill set that Razi had just mentioned, that they're talking as if they're talking at a pawn shop. So that should not happen, also that we all do. So I think with this, by the way, we, not just the panelists, we also have very senior people listening to us as audience. I saw Fareed Hussain Saab. Is he still here? Let me check. Mr. Fareed Hussain is basically has recently retired from the Habib Bank as its Chief Information Officer, and he had around 3 decades experience working with JP Morgan and American Express in the US. So, but I checked with him on the mobile, and he said he will be giving his comments, but I think he is not here at the moment. Anyways, let me see if he joins back. So the point is that because Pakistan is a country which has developed GF-17, it has developed its own missile program, it has developed its own Al-Khalid tanks, it has developed its own unmanned vehicles and unmanned aerial aircrafts. And all of that has been done by the graduates of the same universities. So, I mean, any feedback from Athar or Dr. Nazir or Razi Saab or Dr. Asad, that how can we make things happen in information security? Because there are things which are long-term, but we need some short-term, result-oriented, time-bound results as well. So what are those 3 or 4 action items that we should take from this panel discussion? Dr. Nazir, if we can start with you, then Dr. Asad, then Athar Saab, and then Razi Saab.
Thanks, Asif Saab. Before I answer to your question, I fully agree with what Athar Saab and Razi Saab has been saying about the industry and how they are linking with the academia. And the comment which was mentioned by the Zuhair and you just mentioned to the audience also. For the short-term goals, which I presume is that if the industry has got some specific requirements of the products or the modules which needs to be developed or implemented, I think if we start getting into the concept of the course revisions, the course amendments, and then expecting that they are going to be coming out and giving to the university or to the academia, which is required, it's a very long-term process. Academic change and getting the academic change to deliver something to the industry is a long-term process. It doesn't happen overnight. I think the best solution in this particular scenario would be, as you rightly mentioned, that Pakistan has been developing a number of products, number of revolutionary production technologies. And those revolutionary product and technologies, starting from you rightly mentioned about the tanks, the missile programs, the what you call the even the nuclear program and all such kind of systems. These are very, very big. In the defense area, we have a lot of independence now, and there is a lot of things which have been done by the defense industry to get the things in their own hand. So what I would like to suggest here is that now we need to have, if we need to have a concerted effort, it has to be again a three main partners. The one is the government. The government has to be the one who needs to have a hand in developing such kind of industry, and support to the industry in terms of the incentives, that if the industry join hands or produce the concept which are going to be acquired by the industry, there has to be upper link by the government also. All the products or the program which you mentioned, they were not possible till the time the government has that we provided that support. We see a lot of Chinese companies, they would have never been successful. They would have never been successful unless they were not supported by the government themselves. So the first element in this particular area is the support from the government for the rightly identifying the requirement of the industry. What is the right requirement, and how the government can incentivize, how the government can support the industry to take advantage of the economy. Step 2 should be, as we already mentioned, that there could be the invitations to the industry, where industry is getting in line with the academia to proffer their comments on the currently courses which are being offered. Moreover, the industry can put up their requirements to the universities also, that this is what we are looking for. Maybe down the line in a 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, maybe they can give a short-term plan for the 1 year, some product which is required in 1 year. Maybe they can give a mid-term plan, maybe in 3 years, maybe in a long-term plan, which could be maybe down the line 5 years. And now this short-term, mid-term and long-term plans, if the industry and academia can sit together, plan it accordingly, and then work on the product development or the outcome from the universities, it is a doable thing. It is very much doable. We have a lot of potential in the industry. We have a lot of potential in the academia. We just need to sit together, have more such kind of forums dedicated to the individual industry needs, and aligning them with the universities who are offering those degree programs. So the industry may provide us the short-term, the mid-term, the long-term requirements of the university. Every requirement will not be fulfilled in maybe 1 year program. So there could be a short-term requirement by the university, by the industry. There could be a mid-term, there could be a long-term. So long-term could be the strategic projects. So now the strategic project needs strategic thinking. So you need to be working on those strategic projects for a longer time. You need to have a proper project management built into the academia, having lateral linkage from the industry to generate that long-term project. So that long-term project will need long-term planning, the long-term funding, the long-term support from the academia, government, and industry. This is the one thing. For the midterm, again, the same methodology is going to be implemented. So I think my take home from this today's session would be that industry and academia, we need to sit down together. The industry needs to identify the requirements, alignment with the academia on the short-term, mid-term, long-term projects, and the long-term requirement which they have. Those needs to be propagated or informed to the universities. Universities need to be planning the programs, the outcome, the projects based on those requirements. And I'm sure, inshallah, if we have hand in hand, we'll be in a position to do wonders, inshallah. Thank you very much.
Dr. Asad, your action items,
Yes.
recommendations to yourself or to the industry?
Yes, to myself and to industries, that because in my teaching, in my research, and in my industry projects as a university teacher, it's a truth that I have learned in all three domains, from the even with the talking with the industry. In my some proposals, I just listened and talked to some industry guys, and then I got a success in getting proposal hit. So I see in a comment a very good that Yasser Saab's recommending a co-op model in which graduate students work in the industry, and I want to take this to augmented co-op model. NED has a plan to fill this gap between industry and academia in a very useful manner, and we are going to start from this year that although we are sending students to the industry, but from this year we are going to select 5 to 10 teachers from the university, junior lecturers and junior assistant professors like me, to go to the industry. We will do job in the industry. The salary will be paid by the NED, and we will not expect anything from the industry. And then the vice chancellor will send us the junior teachers like me to the industry, and then we will work there for 6 months or for full year. The salary will be paid by the NED, and then in this way, the polished teacher which come out, that can fill all the gaps which we have discussed here.
By the way, I can just mention that Dr. Asad is Director of IT of Energy University as well. So,
thank you. That's something about.
Yes, we will take the question if time permits towards the end of the session. Sir, your action items.
Okay, yeah, you mentioned some of very strategic projects and achievements of Pakistan, JF-17 and Khalid and all that. But if you noticed in all these products, the initiative was taken by the consumer itself, not by the SMEs or the industry which was supposed to produce those products. So there's something which is fundamental, which Dr. Nazir also and Dr. Asad also basically pointed towards. The SMEs, the specialized industry which is supposed to produce these products. Now, if you allow me, I'll switch over to Urdu because the kind of criticism that I want to talk about, I don't want it to be in English. Okay. So in simple words, यार, अगर आप consumer को उस कंडीशन में ले जाते हैं कि उसको अपना प्रोडक्ट खुद बनाना पड़ जाता है या उसको बेसिकली इंटरनेशनली कोई बेसिकली बनाने वाले यूज करने पड़ जाते हैं, तो या इसका मतलब है इंडस्ट्री ने उसको सपोर्ट ही नहीं किया। तो ये वो डायर कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस की वजह से एक एक्सट्रीम मेजर लेता है एक इंसान उस वक्त कि जब उसके पास कोई और ऑप्शन नहीं रहता तो कहता है मैं खुद ही बना लेता हूँ। तो आपने अपनी डिफेंस इंडस्ट्री को भी उसी स्टेट में ले गए कि जब आपकी जो एक्चुअल इंडस्ट्री थी जिसने ये सारे प्रोडक्ट जो बेसिकली जो कंपोनेंट्स ऑफ दिस प्रोडक्ट बनाने की सलाहियत रखना चाहिए था वो नहीं प्रोवाइड किया, तो उन्होंने कहा चलो फिर अपनी हेवी मैकेनिकल कॉम्प्लेक्सेस एंड लाइक कैमरा एंड ऑल द अदर बेसिकली प्रोड्यूसर्स said okay, we'll develop our own, Chinese से help ले ली, इधर से help ले ली, and they started producing. I don't think so. That is the path that we should take for a commercially viable, again वही वाली बात आती, commercially viable product जो हम और आपको consume करना है वो हमें खुद produce करना पड़ता है। और इसका solution ये भी नहीं होता कि आप academia को उठा के दे दें और आप उनसे कहें कि जी ये product आप बना के दे दें। The product needs to be developed by the industry which specializes in information security. Like it can be you, it can be basically ABC, any other company, I don't want to name companies, which are basically selling products of, of the international market over here. They're more of a product sellers rather than product developers. So there has to be a shift over here. And they have their own problems over here. And that is the amount of market that is available to them. अब एक प्रोडक्ट जो यूएस में बन रहा है, you have to understand कि उनके पास सिर्फ फाइनेंशियल इंडस्ट्री में 7,000 से ज्यादा इंस्टीट्यूट्स हैं जहां पे वो प्रोडक्ट बेच सकते हैं। I'm just talking about the financial industry जहां पे एक सिक्योरिटी प्रोडक्ट कंज्यूम हो सकता है, and then the number of other industries in which that product can be consumed, that just gets multiplied x-fold. So we need to understand the problem of this particular industry, the information security industry. इसको problems क्या आ रहे हैं एक नया product बनाने में, एक basically नया solution market में लाने के लिए. And then we should focus toward resolving that problem and then develop a life cycle for a product development. I'm just talking about the boxes and the software solution that we are looking at on the security side. And that applies to not just security, it applies to the entire industry. Whether you're making socks or you're making basically anything else, the same problem exists, or any other software solution. Whether it's a security software solution or a basically operationally usable software solution. So the prime focus should be on how should Pakistani software developer and solution developers can be complemented to develop their solutions in Pakistan and be able to market them across the world.
Yes.
And
just please आप complete कर लें. Sorry.
जी एक तो ये element है. दूसरा ability to identify what is that the international market requires. So appropriate research and data that would enable you to predict what is the requirement of the future. You know, one example I would give, जो common example दी जा सकती है, देखो पाकिस्तान ने IC engines के ऊपर based vehicles जो हैं, उसमें बहुत late हो गया है. But as compared to that, like electric based basically vehicles जो आगे आनी है, अभी हम उसमें इतने late नहीं हुए. So able to recognize what is the future and how could we basically join the bandwagon at the right time. For instance, India basically picked up IT as an industry where they could focus on, and they invested heavily in that particular area, and now they're reaping benefits of it. In a similar fashion, our strategists in our country need to identify what is our future. Where can we start working now so that we will be able to contribute and be a niche player in the future? So for that, you need the data, you need the information, you need the analysts, and you need to basically identify the area to work upon. So that needs to be identified, and that has to come in collaboration with the industry, with academia, and all the other research analysts. So
right.
That's the area of focus that I would suggest that we start working on. If we want to prepare viable products for the future, we need to start working on the research of what is required in the future. And then prepare our machinery that includes basically the HR component and the equipment, the infrastructure that needs to come in to complement that strategy of ours. And as Dr. Nazeer mentioned, short, medium, long term. So we have to come up with the plans, but we have to focus on the long term ones, because the short and the medium term is only going to address our current needs. But if we want to be a successful country, a successful basically setup in the world, we need to identify what would be required in the future.
Right, thank you very much, Athar Sahab. When I mentioned about those strategic defense projects, तो वो मेरा मकसद ये था कि वो चीज़ें भी हमने बनाई और मोस्टली वो हमारे लोकली प्रोड्यूस पाकिस्तानियों ने ही बनाई हुई. ठीक है कि वो कुछ इंटरनेशनल टीम मेंबर्स भी उसमें शामिल हुए, काम किया, लेकिन इन यूनिवर्सिटीज़ के निकले हुए ग्रेजुएट्स ने वो काम करके दिया, तो वो शायद इंफॉर्मेशन सिक्योरिटी में भी हो सकता हो. तो रजी साहब
हो सकता है, बट वो उसके लिए देखें, वो जो आपकी नेशनल बेसिकली इंटेग्रिटी वाज एट रिस्क, आपका नेशनल इंटरेस्ट वाज एट रिस्क, सो यू वर बेसिकली पुश्ड अगेंस्ट द वॉल एंड देन यू हैड टू कम अप विद दिस. तो मैं आपको ये कहना चाह रहा हूँ कि हमें कभी उसी स्टेज पे जाना ही नहीं चाहिए वेयर लाइक वी बिकम so desperate कि end user जो है उसको अपना solution बनाना पड़ जाए. In this case also, our cyber interest is very important, and it will become a national level issue if we do not work on it. Because going forward, the wars would not be basically the brick and mortar wars. It will be cyber wars, and like there'll be a lot of impact just based on the cyber basically threats that the countries would face. आपने स्पटनिक्स और बेसिकली वो जो ईरान के साथ जो कुछ हो चुका है वो तो एक देख लिया हुआ है, बट दैट्स जस्ट अ टिप ऑफ द आइसबर्ग. As automation increases in your basically day-to-day life, you could be basically held hostage or basically totally crippled by one of your basically enemy state. So unless we basically work on this aspect, and we need to have our own solutions. If we use third party, third country solutions, frankly speaking, we do not have a future. So that is why I'm saying, jo Dr. Nazeer keh rahe the short term, medium, like we have to take into, you know, into view what is our national interest going forward. How are we going to protect that? And if we start working on protecting those kind of national interests now, only then we would be able to produce these products. It has to be very clearly identified.
Razi Saab, your few action items that we should take in moving forward. क्या करना चाहिए?
Sir, quickly, पहले तो मैं ये सोच रहा था कि आपने you mentioned all these beautiful ज़बरदस्त defense products. Are they cyber secure? You know, so, and I think that's what we are discussing here. Yeah, you know, the Al Khalid tanks and the UAVs, and we all know the case where Iranians actually, you know, got hold of, you know, UAV of America, you know, US, and they made it landed there, reverse engine. So, you know, point is, so I think action item includes one which I've been sort of, you know, emphasizing throughout this panel discussion in terms of, you know, looking beyond the range, over the horizon, beyond visual range. You know, what is the demand which is coming up? You know, GDPRs, privacy, data protection. I think a key element which is also missing here in our local sort of, you know, domestic environment and which needs to be picked up by government and the academia is how do we incentivize the international players to come in? So, you know, so last week, you know, we all know, you know, our arch enemy announced, you know, $1 billion in cash, whoever comes in and sets up a semiconductor industry in India, because they want to move towards the hardware as well to compete with China. I know we don't have $1 billion on the national level. Government doesn't have it. Private people may have it, but you know, we need to build up some sort of linkages where we need to do a transfer of technology and an ingestion of where the global trends are heading to. You know, so I think we need to sort of, you know, speak to, and I'm not talking about Microsofts and Cisco's. I'm talking about these niche players, you know, how, you know, and I'm sorry, should be using the name. We don't recognize that state, but a state which we don't recognize from Middle East, that's exactly what they did. They started cherry picking those bleeding edge, you know, ideas, brought them in and started creating. And we know now they are considered among the top 5 cyber powers. So I think the action items should include, you know, what is a beyond visual range? Where do we focus? Number 2, training beyond the technical hard skills. And technical hard skills going beyond IT security, you know, perhaps SCADA, ICS, the control mechanisms, the cyber warfare, on which the cyber nation state actors would be working on. Yeah, those would be my sort of, you know, input.
Okay, thank you very much, Razi Saab. And obviously, yes, these are the areas that we should focus on. And for example, China has declared a decade ago that by 2049, 2049 में China का plan ये है कि they are going to beat Japan and Germany with their quality engineering products. ये उन्होंने 2010 में डिसाइड किया और 40 साल 50 साल का उन्होंने अपना टाइम फ्रेम रखा है. तो अगर वो उनको बीट कर जाएंगे तो फिर हम जो चाइनीज प्रोड्यूसर्स पाकिस्तानी जो मैन्युफैक्चरिंग कंसर्न्स हैं वो कहाँ जाएंगे. सो ये पाकिस्तानी इंडस्ट्री को भी डिसाइड करना है.
सर वो यहाँ मैन्युफैक्चर करेंगे ना सीपेक के अंडर. आप भूल गए सर आप.
हाँ वो फिर बहरहाल दैट्स अ टॉपिक दैट वी कैन टेक ऑन सेपरेटली, बट वी कैन टेक एट लीस्ट 2 क्वेश्चंस. First one from Faisal Shams, and after him we have Aftab Alam. So Faisal Shams, are you there?
Assalamu alaikum. Yes, I'm here.
Welcome.
How are you guys, everyone? Thank you so much for allowing me for the question. I'm working in KSA in a telecom as a chief architect of virtualization and data center. I would like to ask the panelists one simple question. Mashallah, all of them have spoken very well about how the things should be taken forward. But the problem is, what we used to listen like something 10 years back, 15 years back, and maybe more. We are standing at the same point. Even during our academia, we tried to bring some changes to the academia, how the flow is. It was very wrong. But nothing happened. We found people creating hurdles in the way moving forward. I'm not sure if this is the same situation right now, but the content of the academia from the time the student should hit the market to the time that like in the final years of education, they are never taught a subject that they are going to utilize. So I think the internship thing should be more matured up now. What they want to say about this one, and we talk about the master's panel and everything, but अगर आपको किसी बच्चे को सिखाना है तो आपको बहुत early stage से सिखाना होगा. You can't just wait for them to be on the master's level or on the engineering level to start with that mindset. So what do you need to say about our educational setup as an overall, and the industry disconnection as a complete thing, and the government writ as well? Because we talk about US, we talk about many other places, but वहाँ पे it is imposed from the government level. अब जब आपको पता होगा कि I'm going in the industry and I cannot move forward because this is how the things are implemented and this is imposed from the government level, then only things will go. Let me give a very simple example. Like all of us have been traveling through the airport for quite a long time. कितनी बार कोई audit हुआ है, कुछ change आया है from the time you enter in the airport to the point when you reach the gate. So इस तरह की चीजें क्यों इतनी disconnection में है? What do you think about it? How we can maybe make the government listen? And इतना बड़ा जो disconnection है over the period of time, how this can be catered? Thank you so much.
इसमें थोड़ा सा एक awareness का भी concern है. It's not just Pakistanis living abroad. It's a concern. It's an issue with Pakistanis living inside Pakistan as well. कि बहुत सारी चीज़ें हो रही हैं, लेकिन उनको उस तरह से awareness create नहीं की जा रही कि सबको वो पता लग जाए. फॉर एग्जांपल, आपने शायद थोड़ा सा लेट ज्वाइन किया. डॉक्टर असद जो एनडी यूनिवर्सिटी में, इन्होंने एक सीम सॉल्यूशन बना लिया हुआ है, जो एक नेशनल क्लियरिंग कंपनी ऑफ पाकिस्तान जो स्टॉक एक्सचेंज की सेटलमेंट करती है ट्रांजैक्शंस की, वहाँ पे वो इस वक्त डिप्लॉयड है. सेंट्रल डिपॉजिटरी कंपनी के साथ इनका ऑलरेडी एमओयू हो चुका हुआ है. ये वो बना चुके हुए हैं, डिप्लॉय कर चुके हुए हैं. इसी तरह डॉक्टर नज़ीर जो बैठे हुए हैं फ्रॉम बहरिया यूनिवर्सिटी इस्लामाबाद, उन्होंने एक इंट्रूजन डिटेक्शन सिस्टम बना लिया हुआ है. उसमें हार्डवेयर कंपोनेंट भी है, उसको वो थोड़ा और इम्प्रूव कर रहे हैं. और उन्होंने शुरू में बताया था कि इस साल के आखिर तक वो हार्डवेयर भी थोड़ा फर्दर इम्प्रूव हो चुका होगा एंड इट विल बी रेडी टू गो इन द इंडस्ट्री एज वेल. एंड और हमने ऑलरेडी प्लान कर रहे हैं कि GISPP के प्लेटफॉर्म से कम एनडी और बहरिया यूनिवर्सिटी इस्लामाबाद की जो प्रोडक्ट्स रेडी हैं उनको हम डिमॉन्स्ट्रेट कर सकें to the industry professionals inside Pakistan and outside Pakistan as well. कोई अगर अतर, रजी, डॉक्टर नज़ीर, डॉक्टर असद में से कुछ कहना चाहे तो.
ये भी कि फैसल का पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू सही है कि देयर हैज बीन अ वेरी गैप. जब हम लोग स्टूडेंट थे तो फैसल भी मेरे साथ के हैं अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह, बहुत ही इज वेरी एक्सपीरियंस फेलो. और इसमें हमेशा से वी हैव अ केसेस कि सिस्को ट्राइड टू ओपन लैब इन NAD एंड अदर प्लेसेस, और तो दे फेस हर्डल्स. और ये इससे फिर अल्टीमेटली शुरू में तो ये बहुत था कि हमारे कोर्सेज जो हैं वेंडर स्पेसिफिक नहीं होने चाहिए. मतलब ये कोर है जो फैसल जो बात कह रहे हैं ना, ये कि कोर्सेज शुड नॉट बी वेंडर स्पेसिफिक. ये 10 साल 15 साल की बात रही है, लेकिन अब हमें रियलाइज हो रहा है कि भाई कोर्सेज में, प्रैक्टिकल्स में हमें वेंडर्स की जो काम कर रहे हैं वो देनी है हमें. तो अब हमें रियलाइज कर लिया है एंड वी आर ट्राई टू टेलर सर्व कोर्सेज लाइक दिस के अपार्ट फ्रॉम टेकिंग नेम ऑफ एनी वेंडर वी हैव टू टीच दिस. प्रैक्टिकल्स में तो हम ये कर ही रहे हैं, ठीक है ना. एंड वी आर गोइंग टू मेक अलाउ इंडस्ट्री स्पॉन्सर्ड लैब्स एट NAD इन अदर प्लेसेस. ऑल्दो पब्लिक सेक्टर के अंदर हर्डल्स होते हैं. फैसल इज क्वाइट राइट टू से कि पब्लिक सेक्टर के अंदर कोई वेंडर आकर अपनी लैब खोलना चाहता है तो वो बेचारा वेंडर, वो उसको ऐसा ट्रीट किया जाता है कि वो कहता है आइंदा नहीं आऊंगा मैं. लेकिन कि अब दिस थिंग्स आर गोइंग टू चेंज. हम अब थिंग्स यूनिवर्सिटीज आर रियलाइजिंग पब्लिक प्राइवेट पार्टनरशिप मॉडल ये अब आहिस्ता आहिस्ता यूनिवर्सिटीज में इन हो रहा है ये. तो इंशाल्लाह थिंग्स विल बी मच बेटर एंड आई होप यू विल हैव गुड न्यूज़ वेरी सून.
जी, NAD में तो ना सिर्फ हुआवे की लैब्स भी है, नाम लेने में कोई मुज़ायका नहीं है, माइक्रोसॉफ्ट की लैब भी है. तो और अभी आप कह रहे हैं कि सिस्को की भी आ रही है, तो ठीक है. जब प्रैक्टिकल्स हो रहे हो तो उनको डिवाइसेस पे और मुख्तलिफ
लैब आई थी तो हमने शुरू में 10 साल पहले तो हम इट वाज आई मीन इस तरह की प्रैक्टिस को डिस्करेज किया गया, नॉट ओनली इन NAD, इन ऑल पब्लिक सेक्टर यूनिवर्सिटीज के बड़े के मतलब वी आर नॉट ब्लेमिंग ऑन इंडस्ट्री. हमारा कसूर भी है, यूनिवर्सिटीज का कसूर भी है, खासतौर पर पब्लिक सेक्टर यूनिवर्सिटीज का कि ऐसे इदारे शुरू में आए हेल्प करने के लिए, लेकिन हमारे अपने इदारों ने थोड़ा सा डिस्करेज किया ड्यू टू सम रीजंस के. नहीं, जैसे बेसिक आपसे मैंने कहा कि वेंडर स्पेसिफिक कोर्स नहीं होना चाहिए. अब वो ये चीज माने कि हमारे सीसीएन के अंदर वी हैव टू फॉलो सीसीएन आउटलाइन, सीसीएन पे आउटलाइन। तो अब हम ये कर रहे हैं चीजें ताकि हमारे बच्चे जब जैसे वैसे लगा कि जब इंडस्ट्री को हिट करें तो दे मस्ट बी रेडी टू हिट।
Okay. Aftab Saab, if you want to ask or have any comments, are you there? No, I think Raja Mahmood, do you want to say something?
अब मैंने कहा आफ्ताब साहब नहीं है तो मैं
जी जी
ही
प्लीज।
चांस अवेल कर लेता हूँ।
नहीं,
We
आपके
did
भी
discuss
कमेंट्स मैंने देखा था।
Right. Okay. So we did discuss about the challenges that universities are facing, but I think I'm gonna refer to the other sub comment which he actually made right at the beginning. Like our literacy rate is very low. जिस तरह की प्रोडक्ट नो डिसरिस्पेक्ट टू एनीबॉडी जो आप प्रोडक्ट कह रहे हैं मसलन लाइक हु इज गोना यूज इंट्रूजन डिटेक्शन सिस्टम बिकॉज देयर आर जैसे मैं थोड़ा सा बता दूं कि मैं क्यों इस तरह की बात कर रहा हूँ। I've done MSc from Middlesex University in network and cyber security. I'm actually Palo Alto certified, checkpoint certified. इसी तरह डिफरेंट जो कंपनीज हैं उनके लिए और भी हैं फायरवॉल जिन पे मैंने काम किया है और एट द मोमेंट क्लाउड पे कर रहे हैं। तो we know that there is a gap between academia and the industry और जो करिकुलम है बेसिकली जो हम एक्चुअली पढ़ा रहे हैं उसमें बहुत ज्यादा गैप है बेसिकली। और अभी हम ये डिस्कस कर रहे हैं कि गैप है, जैसे अभी अतर साहब हैं, रजी साहब हैं, सो दे आर क्वाइट मतलब इन है इंडस्ट्री में, और आप लोग हैं जैसे यूनिवर्सिटी वाली साइड पे, हम एक्चुअली नोबडी। तो व्हाई डोंट यू जस्ट बिल्ड अप समथिंग, कुछ सोल्यूशन की तरफ जाएं कि दिस इज हाउ शुड वी मूव फॉरवर्ड एंड देन ऑब्वियसली द गवर्नमेंट विल इन्वॉल्व। आप सिलेबस को जो है जैसे आपका वो एनईडी वाला आप कह रहे हैं कि जो जाके प्रोफेसर करते हैं, दिस इज एक्चुअली बीन यूके में या अब्रॉड होता है। टीचर्स जो है दे डू जॉब, इवन प्राइम मिनिस्टर जॉब करते हैं। आई मीन हमारा कैमरून जो है वो उन्होंने एक ली थी, बोरिस जॉनसन करते रहे हैं, और ये करते हैं जॉब, एंड दैट्स हाउ यू एक्चुअली लर्न जो इसमें है। तो मैं समझता हूँ कि जो जैसे अभी आसिफ साहब ने ये इनिशिएटिव लिया, तो मे बी आप ही सर इसको थोड़ा सा हम आगे बढ़ाएं और सोल्यूशन की तरफ जाएं जिसमें हम इस गैप को कम करें। और obviously we have the industries people, those are willing to help us, we have the academia people, those are willing to work, so let's just find out the solution कि कोई ऐसी बॉडी बना लें जिसमें एक इंडस्ट्री है, एक साइड पे एकेडमिया है, एंड द मिडल में जैसे आप कह रहे थे, तो किस तरह की बॉडी आप ही आज ही से या whenever you guys are ready आप ही इनिशिएटिव लें सर।
I'm glad you mentioned that, yeah. Okay, I'll tell you what like is happening, and that'll give like some level of encouragement to the people who are listening to this chat. Here, when I came to Pakistan, I saw this gap between the academia and the products that were being produced, the HR products that were produced, and what the industry required. I didn't contribute much at the point in time, frankly. What I did was I hired the resources and I trained them on the international benchmarks, and they were sought after in the local and the international industry. But that was not the solution. So what I've done is I'm in talks with few of the professors in the universities. And we have come up with a solution that we will have a summer course in which like people like me and the rest in the industry can contribute by basically teaching or basically conducting workshops in those universities and briefing the students what is required by the industry. So that is one area where people like me can contribute. I'm not just talking about myself. I'm talking about people who are working in the industry and who know exactly what they require from the HR resources that come from the university. So that way, it will be a good interaction between the student and the end consumer. And they would be able to talk about what is required when these students come to the real world to work for these multinationals or local industry. The second thing that we can contribute in educating the lot which is still in the universities is by inviting them to have internship. I think Faisal mentioned that, and those kind of internship programs currently exist. It's just that like not many people were coming to the information security side, and most of these interns would come to the business side of it or the IT side of it. And there were very few who would come to the information security units of the organization. I think I hardly saw anybody coming to the information security unit of the. So by visiting the universities, by encouraging students, and by basically prompting the professors over there, I believe there'll be a push towards sending interns on the information security side, and I think that would give them a flavor of what is required or what they would need to work upon, or this kind of skill set they would need to work upon to become viable within the information security or cyber security side of the industry. So I think like these are the 2 or 3 steps which some of the professionals like me have already taken, and some have basically started taking these steps. So I think we need to develop some of these programs. I think Dr. Nazir was also mentioning कि अगर आप खुद बना दें ये program, so एक basically presentation on the kind of skills that you require and what skills you require those students to work upon, I think it'll be a good solution going forward. और आप लोगों को भी flavor मिल जाता है, यानी कि जो students को भी flavor मिल जाएगा कि उनको क्या करना है, और हमें भी idea हो जाएगा कि वो student इस वक्त क्या सोच रहा है और किन चीजों पे काम कर रहा है.
Okay.
So I think this dialogue is important.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Athar.
Dr. Nazir, do you want to say something?
वो क्या है, जैसे अभी थोड़ी देर पहले अतर भाई साहब ने कहा था ना कि जरा मैं उर्दू में बोल लूं तो वो मजा आता है बात करने का, इंग्लिश में नहीं करनी चाहिए. तो I would follow the pursuit. उसमें देखें हमारी जितनी डिस्कशन है ना, अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह बहुत अच्छी डिस्कशन हुई. इंडस्ट्री का पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू भी 100% करेक्ट है. एकेडमिया का भी, मैं चूंकि आई प्ले ऑन द बोथ साइड्स, इसलिए मैं दोनों को ना आई कैन मेक आउट द प्रॉब्लम ऑन बोथ साइड. मेरे ख्याल में नेक्स्ट टाइम आसिफ साहब जब आप ये कंडक्ट करें ना, इस तरह की क्या कहना चाहिए सेशंस कंडक्ट करें, तो आप कोशिश करें कि आप कहीं से कहीं किसी गवर्नमेंट के बंदे को भी ना जो कि रिस्पॉन्सिबल हो इस चीज का, उसको बीच में प्लग करें. उसका रीजन क्या है? देखिए हमने जितनी बातें की है ना, सब बातें हमने ठीक की. हम सब साइबर सिक्योरिटी के एरिया में काम कर रहे हैं अभी, और बड़े अरसे से हम लोग काम कर रहे हैं इसके अंदर. मुझे कोई बता सकता है कि हमारी साइबर सिक्योरिटी की, इंफॉर्मेशन सिक्योरिटी की पाकिस्तान की पॉलिसी कभी किसी ने पढ़ी? उसमें से कभी किसी ने पढ़ा है कि साइबर सिक्योरिटी है? पहली बात ये कि है क्या? असल सवाल तो ये है. ऐसे मुल्क जिनका बहुत छोटे छोटे मुल्क भी है ना, उन्होंने भी अपनी साइबर सिक्योरिटी की पॉलिसीज कब से बना के इम्प्लीमेंट की होंगी. हम लोग अभी तक, मैं विटनेस हूँ पिछले कोई कम से कम 2013 से ऑनवर्ड का, तो मैं विटनेस हूँ, ठीक है, कि हम लोग जितनी भी एफर्ट कर लें अल्टीमेटली ये कहीं ना कहीं एंड अप जाके ये ऐसी क्या कहते हैं रद्दी की टोकरी को ढेर होना शुरू हो जाता है. अभी ये फर्स्ट टाइम इस दफा हुआ है. अब जी मेरे में सर, अभी दिस इज द फर्स्ट टाइम के MOIT&T ने उसको अपलोड किया है उसके ऊपर, और उसके ऊपर बहुत रिजर्वेशन लोगों की धड़ा आ रही है. आई हैव बीन रीडिंग ऑल दोस रिजर्वेशंस जो उस पर लिखी गई हैं, और मैं सबको ये कह रहा हूँ कि यार अच्छी है बुरी है जो भी है, एक दफा बनने दो, उसके बाद हम ठीक कर देंगे. ठीक है, देखिए पॉलिसी ना, पॉलिसी ड्राइव करती है. हमारी इस डिस्कशन के अंदर रीजन क्या है, व्हाई वी आर अनएबल टू डू इट. किसी भी हम सब देखें ना, हम जब आप कहते हैं जी इंफॉर्मेशन सिक्योरिटी का ऑडिट करना है, ये करना है, तो सबसे पहले ऑर्गेनाइजेशन की इंफॉर्मेशन सिक्योरिटी पॉलिसी होनी चाहिए. वो टॉप टियर इन्वॉल्व होना चाहिए, बिल्कुल बोर्ड ऑफ डायरेक्टर इन्वॉल्व होने चाहिए, वो अप्रूव करें, वो डॉक्यूमेंट होना चाहिए, लाइव डॉक्यूमेंट होना चाहिए. ये हम सब इंफॉर्मेशन सिक्योरिटी के जितने प्रैक्टिशनर्स हैं ना, हम सब इसको बहुत अहमियत देते हैं. और हम लोगों ने अपनी अपनी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में इंफॉर्मेशन सिक्योरिटी की पॉलिसी बनाई भी हुई हैं. वी इम्प्लीमेंट दैट. हम साइबर सिक्योरिटी की गाइडेंस के ऊपर, अवेयरनेस पे बहुत काम करते हैं. हम अपनी ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस के अंदर लोगों को अवेयर करते हैं. हम एडवाइजरीज भी आ रही होती है, बहुत सारा काम हो रहा होता है जो कि हम अपनी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के लेवल पर अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह कर रहे हैं. मेरे हिसाब में जो एक मिसिंग लिंक है, इंडस्ट्री एकेडमिया तो है ही है ना, लेकिन जितने सेमिनार हम करते हैं उसमें वो क्या दो एंड स्टेक होल्डर को आपस में हम बैठ जाते हैं, लेकिन जो स्टेक होल्डर मेजर है ना बीच वाला जिसने असल काम करना है वो समहाउ हमारे इससे मिस होता है, ठीक है। तो वी नीड टू मेक मिनिस्ट्री MOIT से अगर आप कोशिश करें किसी को बिठाएं ताकि वो हमारी ये बातें सुने ना, वो ये बातें सुने,
जी मेरे
वो
ख्याल
मेरे
से
हमारी बातें सुनिए और अपनी पॉलिसी का पार्ट बनाए ना। जब पॉलिसी के पार्ट के अंदर यूनिवर्सिटीज को भी कुछ डायरेक्शन दी जाए जो कि इंडस्ट्री की तरफ से आ रही होंगी, इसी तरह इंडस्ट्री को भी कुछ डायरेक्शन दी जाए जो कि गवर्नमेंट की तरफ से आ रही होगी, तो तब आपकी लिंकेजेस और अच्छी हो जाती है, बिकॉज पॉलिसी ड्राइव करती है डिसीजंस को ना। अगर आपका नेशनल लेवल पे साइबर सिक्योरिटी की पॉलिसी नहीं होगी और वो उसको ड्राइव नहीं करेगा तो फिर काम नहीं होगा ना फिर आपका। ये असद साहब ने अभी जो लिंक शेयर किया ये बिल्कुल मेरे में मैंने बिल्कुल पढ़ी हुई है, और मैं पिछले जैसे मैंने अभी थोड़ी देर पहले अर्ज किया कि मैं 2013 से इस पे काम कर रहा हूँ और मल्टीपल ड्राफ्ट पे मैंने काम किया है। अतर साहब से मेरी डिस्कशन हुई है, आसिफ साहब से डिस्कशन हुई है। सो वी आर प्रिवी टू दी नंबर ऑफ ड्राफ्ट्स, और इस वाले ड्राफ्ट में भी आई एम प्रिवी टू दी कंटेंट्स ऑफ द ड्राफ्ट। मेरे ख्याल में नेक्स्ट टाइम आप प्लीज आप कोशिश करेंगे किसी
हम करते हैं
के बंदे को इन्वॉल्व करें।
बाय द वे हमने ऑलरेडी प्लान किया हुआ है कि दिस इज नॉट द ओनली सेशन ऑन दिस स्पेसिफिक टॉपिक। इंशाल्लाह ताला हो सकता है कि विद इन अ वीक हम इसी टॉपिक पे एक एपिसोड 2 भी करें विद डिफरेंट पैनलिस्ट फ्रॉम द इंडस्ट्री एंड फ्रॉम द यूनिवर्सिटीज, और फिर हम एक 3-4 पेज का एक शॉर्ट समरी बनाकर प्रेजेंट करें। बाय द वे ऑल दिस इज पॉसिबल बिकॉज ऑफ अ प्लेटफॉर्म कॉल्ड GISPP, जिसको इसका नहीं पता, ग्लोबल इंफॉर्मेशन सिक्योरिटी प्रोफेशनल्स ऑफ पाकिस्तान। इसकी वेबसाइट भी है, इसका फेसबुक पेज भी है, इसका यूट्यूब चैनल भी है। इसके यूट्यूब चैनल पे कोई 100 के करीब 1-1, 2-2, 1.5 घंटे की मुख्तलिफ टॉपिक्स पे डेमोन्स्ट्रेशंस पड़ी हुई हैं जो लोगों ने फ्रीली कोर्सेज वहाँ पे दिए हुए हैं, और वो हज़ारों लोगों ने ऑलरेडी देखे हुए भी हैं। ये GISPP का प्लेटफॉर्म शुरू हुआ था सऊदी अरब से, शहजाद सुबहानी ने ये शुरू किया था जो हमारे UIT के ग्रेजुएट हैं और कैडेट कॉलेज के भी पढ़े हुए हैं, बेस्ड इन सऊदी अरब। शहजाद साहब आप काइंडली इसको रैप अप करें और हम इंशाल्लाह ताला नेक्स्ट सेशन में
सर सिर्फ एक सेकंड इसमें मैं लेना चाहता हूँ। ऑब्वियसली अतर साहब थे, रजी साहब थे, असद और अथर साहब और नज़ीर साहब, इन्होंने कुछ चीज़ें डिस्कस की विच आई हैव लर्न माई सेल्फ। सो अभी जो नेक्स्ट सेशन आप कर रहे हैं तो जिसकी मीटिंग मिनट्स या इस तरह को जो है को पता चले कि ये डिस्कशन हुई, हम इसको रादर देन डिस्कशन ओवर डिस्कशन करते नहीं, वी मूव फॉरवर्ड करें। इसकी मीटिंग मिनट जो डिस्कशन पॉइंट जो कुछ हमने कंक्लूड किया, जो नेक्स्ट पैनलिस्ट होंगे, रादर देन हम अगर यही सेम बातें दोहराएंगे तो उसका कुछ फ्रूटफुल रिजल्ट नहीं निकलेगा। तो मैं चाहता हूँ कि हम अगर आप शुरू ही करना चाहते हैं, आई डोंट नो कब से आप लोगों ने शुरू किया हुआ है, आई एम सॉरी अगर मैं दरमियान में सारी इंटरप्शन बना रहा हूँ कि आप किस फ्लो से चल रहे हैं। तो आई वांट कि अगर हमने ये जैसे ये डिस्कशन है जो हमारे पैनलिस्ट ने इसकी सजेशन दी, जो प्रॉब्लम दिए, तो एक मीटिंग मिनट की शक्ल में जितने भी कोई एक मेंबर्स बना लें इस तरह, तो एक हम उस सोल्यूशन की तरफ फिर जाएंगे। मेरी
ये करेंगे, ये करना है एग्जैक्टली। लेकिन जी ऑब्वियसली ये हम जो 8-10 लोग हैं यही सारे अक्लमंद नहीं हैं, कुछ 8-10 अक्लमंद और भी हैं जिनको अभी हमने शामिल हाल नहीं किया। तो मीटिंग मिनट्स जो वर्किंग पेपर जो आप कह रहे हैं कि मिनट्स बना लें या एक्शन आइटम लिस्ट डाउन कर लें, वो उन एडिशनल 8-10 लोगों का भी इनपुट ले लें। इसके भी मीटिंग मिनट्स हमने लिए हैं, नोट्स लिए हैं GISPP के प्लेटफॉर्म से, और वो जो इसका इसी टॉपिक पे एपिसोड 2 होगा तो हम उसको भी डॉक्यूमेंट करेंगे, और फिर वो HSC को, मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ IT को, मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ साइंस एंड टेक्नोलॉजी को, स्टेट बैंक को, PTA को, इन तमाम SSCP को, इन तमाम लोगों के साथ शेयर करेंगे इंशाल्लाह ताला। शहजाद साहब ओवर टू यू।
जी अस्सलाम वालेकुम। अस्सलाम वालेकुम सर, मेरा तो नहीं था बात करने का, लेकिन शुक्रिया आपने एंड पे बात की। तो मैं सबसे ये कहना चाहता हूँ कि माशाल्लाह बहुत अच्छा सेशन था, बल्कि बहुत अर्ली था हमारे हिसाब से। हमारे वीकेंड है, हम देर से उठते हैं, तो मैं सुबह इससे स्पेशल उठा हूँ 8-8 बजे। तो सर माशाल्लाह मोस्टली जो सेशंस होते हैं जो हम लोग देखते हैं, लोग मिलते हैं, बात करते हैं, उसके बाद सेशन खत्म और बातें खत्म। तो अल्लाह का इंशाल्लाह इसमें ऐसे नहीं होगा। हमारा पूरा प्लान है कि जो भी हमने पॉइंट्स नोट करेंगे हम उसको हर जगह उसको शेयर करेंगे, जहाँ जहाँ हमारी रीच हम करेंगे। तो स्पेशली फॉर द टीचर्स जो यहाँ पे हमारे प्रोफेसर्स हैं, मैं उनको बता दूं कि हमने तकरीबन 2 साल पहले से हमने शुरू किया था। हमने एक कई लोग पूछते थे जी हाउ टू कम टू इंफॉर्मेशन सिक्योरिटी, हमने उसके लिए गाइड बनाई, हमने इंडस्ट्री के लोगों के जरिए उसको हमने पब्लिश किया, हमने उसको हर जगह शेयर किया, ठीक है। और वो इट्स अ वेरी गुड गाइड फॉर एनीबडी हु जो भी अभी बैचलर्स कर रहा हो जिसने आगे जाना हो, आईटी में जाना हो या इंफॉर्मेशन सिक्योरिटी में जाना हो, तो हमने 2 साल पहले बना के हमने उसको पब्लिश किया जगह जगह पे। हमने यूट्यूब पे हमने उस पर वीडियोज भी किए, हमने वो भी हमारे पास अवेलेबल हैं। तो जो हम कर सकते थे, क्योंकि एटलीस्ट हमने देखा था कि गाइडेंस थी ही नहीं किसी के पास, लोगों को आइडिया नहीं था करना क्या है, तो हमने उनको बताया कि यहाँ से ये चीजें पढ़ सकते हो, ये चीजें कर सकते हो। इसके अलावा गिस्प काम कर रहा है, इसके अलावा एक उर्दू आईटी एकेडमी है, अगर आप लोगों को नहीं पता, उर्दू आईटी एकेडमी इज आल्सो रन बाय पाकिस्तानी काशिफ इकबाल, वो यूके में होता है। वो बहुत अच्छा रिसोर्स है बच्चों के लिए, उसमें उन्होंने उर्दू में लेक्चर्स किए हैं, CCNA के लेक्चर्स हैं, बहुत सी चीजों के उसमें हैं। मतलब यू कैन नॉट इवन थिंक कितने वो इवन उसमें फ्री भी है, उन्होंने पैसे दे के भी लोगों से करवाए हैं सेशन काशिफ ने। तो रिसोर्सेज अवेलेबल हैं। तो बाकी ये है कि जो हम बात करते हैं गवर्नमेंट की, अगर गवर्नमेंट नहीं भी करती तो मेरा ख्याल है इंडस्ट्री और टीचर्स आपस में मिलकर तो कर ही सकते हैं। आई थिंक नोबडी इज स्टॉपिंग देम टू वर्क टुगेदर। गवर्नमेंट को उसमें मतलब हाँ कुरिकुलम चेंज करने में अगर गवर्नमेंट इन्वॉल्व है तो वो देखा जा सकता है, लेकिन कुरिकुलम हैज टू बी चेंज, क्योंकि अभी तक यूनिवर्सिटीज में या कॉलेजेस में वो चीजें पढ़ा रहे हैं जो फील्ड में है ही नहीं। अब इस वक्त पाइथन मार्केट में है, पाइथन यूज हो रही है, लेकिन यूनिवर्सिटीज को भाई पता भी ना हो, शायद कोई उसको पढ़ाता हो। ठीक है, मैं खुद जब यूनिवर्सिटी में था हमने पढ़ी थी फोर्ट्रान, तो फोर्ट्रान को यूज ही नहीं करता था उस वक्त मार्केट में, तो हमें वो पढ़ाई गई थी। उसके बाद भी कई लोगों को कई ऐसी हैं लैंग्वेजेस जो पढ़ा रहे हैं जो अब यूज ही नहीं होती। तो देयर आर मेनी थिंग्स जो हम खुद भी कर सकते हैं, जिसके लिए हमें शायद गवर्नमेंट की जरूरत ना हो, हम आपस में भी हम करके कम्युनिकेट करके हम उसको देख सकते हैं। एनीवेज, बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया सब लोगों का। आसिफ भाई आपका, जिसका जिन्होंने ये सोचा, आइडिया लिया, जिन्होंने सबको अरेंज किया। अतर भाई आपका, डॉक्टर नजीर साहब, असद, आरफीन, अपना रजी साहब, माशाल्लाह इट वाज वेरी नाइस नोइंग ऑल ऑफ यू। अगर आप में से कोई गिस्ट के प्लेटफॉर्म पे नहीं है तो मुझे बता दे। तो वी हैव अ अमेजिंग प्लेटफॉर्म, हमारे पास सारे माशाल्लाह इस वक्त एक्सपर्ट्स हैं हर फील्ड के, जो हम आपस में हम बात करते हैं। किसी का कोई वो नहीं है, नो हिडन एजेंडा, किसी के कोई वो फेम की वो नहीं है डिजायर कि जी मेरा नाम चले। सिर्फ मकसद यही है कि हम मिलके कुछ कर सकें, रिटर्न बैक कर सकें कुछ जो हम कर सकते हैं इंडस्ट्री को, अपने स्टूडेंट्स को, अपने लोगों को। अल्लाह का शुक्र है जब से हमारा ये शुरू हुआ है 2-3 साल 4 साल से, अब हम इस स्टेज पे आ गए हैं जब किसी ने कोई हायरिंग करनी होती है सऊदीया में, दुबई में, कोशिश वो करता है पहले हम अपने ही लोगों में से हायर करते हैं। जो पाकिस्तानियों का ग्रुप है उसी में से जॉब्स निकल जाती हैं। पाकिस्तान से भी काफी लोग हमारे लेके आ रहे हैं, तो जॉब्स की भी है। हमारे बच्चों के लिए जो फ्रेश बाद में आएंगे फील्ड, उनके लिए भी एक फायदा है कि उनको एक प्लेटफॉर्म मिलेगा जो उनको हेल्प कर सकता है टू सेटल इन पाकिस्तान एज वेल टू सेटल इन अब्रॉड। तो अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह। सो राजा साहब आपका बहुत शुक्रिया, माशाल्लाह आप शुरू से आपने अटेंड किया है। आई एम वेरी लाइक वेरी हैप्पी टू सी द योर इंटरेस्ट लेवल, और बाकी लोगों का भी। Even I have Ahmed Sethi, he is working in Cisco, and he was saying, Shahzad, why you put it so early? He says it's 5 o'clock here. How I will join? So it was too early actually from UK perspective. So he also wanted to participate, but it was too early. So maybe the second session we'll do in like a middle time, 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock. So most people can join us. As of now, our US people were not able to join us. So again, sir, sorry for taking too much time. Thank you everybody for attending. Inshallah, we'll have more sessions on this one, and Ramadan is coming. Maybe we'll have more talks, and inshallah, we will try to do whatever we can. Thank you, Asif bhai. We can close the session now.
All righty. Thank you very much, Athar Saab, Razi Saab, Dr. Nazeer Malik, and Dr. Asad Arfeen for taking time out and becoming available rather on a very short notice. क्योंकि इस सेशन के लिए 5-6 लोगों ने डिक्लाइन किया फॉर वेरियस रीजंस। तो अथर को ऑब्वियसली आई कॉन्टेक्टेड हिम द वेरी फर्स्ट पर्सन, वन ऑफ द फर्स्ट पर्सन, और अथर ने इमीडिएटली कंफर्मेशन दे दी थी 10 days बैक। सो थैंक्स टू एवरीबडी, एंड इंशाल्लाह ताला हम इसका नेक्स्ट सेशन करते हैं, एंड लेट्स सी हाउ इट मूव्स फॉरवर्ड। अस्सलाम वालेकुम व रहमतुल्लाहि व बरकातहू।
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shahzad Saab and Asad Saab. Hope to see you guys again soon, inshallah. Thank you very much. Allah Hafiz.
I realize I am the host, so I will close the session now.
Thank you, Shahzad Saab.